I kind of use AI to make sure that I'm spending more time editing and less time sweating about the smaller stuff.
I will read something online that has been written by a person, and I'm like so in awe of how well they use words to paint a picture. And then you realize that, AI can't do that. You can never, ever, ever replicate the film look with digital. Even if you have a preset that looks really filmy, you can still tell it's digital.
Some of my favorite pieces of content out there are showcasing the behind the scenes of how things are being done out there and the process of what it took to get there. And that is what's beautiful, not necessarily the end product.
It's up to everyone to decide like what is too far for them.
Shanae, welcome back. Really appreciate you for taking the time to chat about these difficult topics. And yeah, I've an interesting question for you. I'm not sure if you specifically have a picture in mind that you would call your favorite, or a story behind why it's your favorite, or a reaction from a couple why it's their favorite picture and it became your favorite picture. Yeah, do you have something like that or not?
That's very difficult to just narrow down to one single image, but I have a few that come to mind, and they are all, majority of them are bridal portraits. And one thing that's really important to me is when I take a portrait of you, I there's kind of like a breaking of the fourth wall in the sense that the viewer feels like the subject is looking at them as opposed to just looking into a camera. I feel like there's a really big difference between the two. And every now and again, you get that. And when you have a bride just like gazing into your soul, I don't think there's anything more beautiful than that.
Sure. That sounds incredible. Tell me, at a wedding, what was one of the special moments that you felt very privileged to kind of be a part of? Like, is there a moment that you kind of still think about regularly that you felt like, yo, this is really special?
I mean, I shoot a lot of weddings where there is praise and worship, and I love those. There was one specific wedding that I shot at Diamant Estate where there was just this energy in the chapel, and I mean the groom was so emotional, and him and the bride just fell into an embrace when they met at the altar, and while we were praising and worshiping, they were just so there. They were so present, and they like tears were streaming down their faces, and the light was so moody, and it just like visually it was really beautiful, but the soul behind it was also there. And and then I also have another example of one of my brides. She always mentions that when she was at my retreat, and she also mentioned it in her Google review the other day, which is really sweet of her, where she said that while she was getting dressed on her wedding day, her grandfather was kind of like, well, not while she was getting dressed, sorry. One of my brides, while she was doing a reveal to her bridesmaids, the grandfather was kind of watching in the background, and everyone was like, "No, it's fine. Just let him sit there and watch." You're like, normally they're like, "No, you're not allowed to see me," but I just thought that was so precious, and so I ran over and I took a few snaps of him getting really emotional, watching her just being in her wedding gown. And she always says that those images are some of the most precious ones because her grandfather sadly passed about a year after the wedding, and she says that that's still one of her favorite memories. And being able to know that on the day you took the initiative, and the difference between her having that image and not having it was literally you taking the initiative and just using your little 2 feet to walk over there and make an extra effort is kind of significant, I think.
Sure, that is incredible. Okay, Shanae, today we're discussing the impact of AI in this creative space that we currently find ourselves in. And I mean, it's really burst into the scene with
A splash.
quite a splash.
Yes.
And I mean, the question is, are they coming for our jobs, you know? And we'll get to that. But I think let's rather start at how is AI currently helping you with your job? How do you use it in your day to day? How do you use it on the wedding day? How do you use it in your post production? I would love to hear what your inside the. I would love to hear what your secret tools are.
Okay, so AI has definitely made our lives so much easier when it comes to post production, specifically when I'm trying to remove really distracting or ugly objects in the background. In the past, you really had to be quite skilled in Photoshop, whereas now you just use generative fill and it's pretty spot on most of the time, you know, when it's not giving you some ugly ghost figure. Um, so that really, really helps me and makes my editing time faster than it would have been if it weren't for generative AI. I don't use AI to cull. Maybe I'm just because I do love a really an odd crop or a blurry image or like I always feel like I have a plan with a certain image, and if I had to use AI to cull through my images, it would probably leave those out. So I'm still a little bit skeptical about that, but I do know a lot of people use AI to cull, especially like group and family pictures, which is so fair. Um, and obviously, I use Chat GPT when I'm writing an email to a client that I feel I could just make a little bit more professional. I will rely on that. But I do feel like I'm losing my writing skills, and which is not good. I mean, I think when I was at school, like language was, I was really proficient in language as opposed to maths and whatever. And now I feel like I'm really doing that a disservice because I'm just kind of relying on AI to fill in the blanks for me, which is quite scary. So I do still try to compose a sentence from the get go, and I'll only polish it if I need to. I cannot stand it when people use ChatGPT to write their Instagram captions because it's so easy to identify. Like it uses the most generic language. It says the same thing all over and over again. You can tell the prompt that the person typed in. And I feel like I would rather sit for 2 hours thinking of a caption and let it be specific to the couple and say something about the day that actually happened than have it sound so cheesy and so generic. I can't stand it.
Yeah, so
No offense to everybody else.
I'm definitely that person out there that writes a caption with ChatGPT. I'm not going to even gatekeep it, but the reality of it is, I feel the video is the the piece of content that you really need to look at. And I spent a lot of time on that, opposed to writing a heartfelt caption out there. So I mean, I'm sorry about it, but that's just the reality for it. Yeah, and I think having AI in our back pockets, especially when it comes to copywriting, for me was a big benefit because I'm not proficient in writing great English literature out there. I'm not going to be the next um beside bro
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. I'm not going to be the next Shakespeare. So I mean, I kind of use AI to make sure that I'm spending more time editing and less time worrying, sweating about the smaller stuff.
That's fair.
Because the reality of it is, I'm a creative and I am very systematic with my approach. And if I can save myself an hour a day when it comes to doing admin, I'll take that any day of the week because that means I get an hour longer to spend on a client's project. So, yeah, I think AI is definitely opening a lot of doors when it comes to making us more proficient with our time. But I think in contrast to that, it's also making us lazy, like you said.
Yes.
And that's an interesting thing because I think there are still some cons when it comes to AI. And I'm not sure if you maybe can think of some cons that AI is currently trying to do, but not necessarily doing at a good level.
Uh, well, I think really writing from the heart, as I just said, like ChatGPT, I mean, if you ask it to write something in legalistic terms or really professional, it does an exceptional job. But if you ask it to give something a poetic tone or whatever, it's obviously going to get better and better as the years go on. But right now, I will read something online that has been written by a person, and I'm like so in awe of how well they use words to paint a picture. And then you realize that, AI can't do that. So there's a certain human element to it that I think is still lacking, and that I mean, it will probably come close to emulating, but I don't think it'll ever be the real deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's going to take a bit of time, especially when it comes to understanding the heart of humanity and really getting a grasp for it. And I think the chances are it's never going to be able to get there because you can't replicate what's happening between us as people, you know? And yeah, you touched on it earlier when it comes to culling photos. I see a lot more photographers opting for the images that aren't perfect because the reality of AI is it's going to make everything perfect. And I
Exactly.
think people are leaning into the imperfectness of the wedding day and moments in the wedding day, making sure that it is kind of gives a bit more of the background of what happens at a wedding.
Absolutely. That's why, if I can interrupt you, that's why content creators are becoming so popular. That's why film is making a comeback, is because you can never, ever, ever replicate the film look with digital. Even if you have a preset that looks really filmy, you can still tell it's digital. Um, and people love the organic feel of cell phone footage of a wedding day. It just looks so much less posed and whatever. And like you say, AI is kind of after the perfect and the like well structured and all of the words are nice and whatever. And like as humans, that just lacks soul at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think the reality is, I think everyone strives for perfection, but not everyone. You can't get perfection, rather. And I think the process of getting there, that's the beauty, and that's what you should be focusing on, trying to get that instead of getting the perfection out of it. Because the reality is, most of the time, perfection isn't as beautiful as what people would think it is. So, for example, some of my favorite pieces of content out there are showcasing the behind the scenes of how things are being done out there and the process of what it took to get there. And that is what's beautiful, not necessarily the end product. It's not that it's not great, it's just seeing what people had to go through to
Yes.
get there is
Yes.
valuable.
Absolutely.
And I mean, AI is everywhere today, and we're seeing it more and more pop up in images. And we're at the start now where it's popping up more in the video space side of things. I mean, with images, how much AI is too much AI, and where is AI, like a great help, and where isn't it gonna fit in at all?
I mean, I think if you're a visual designer, and I mean with AI the possibilities are endless. So you can create these absolute dream worlds that just don't exist, but that we can. And I mean, we also love a bit of escapism. So I think that can really offer us that, just, creating these realities, the alternate dream realities that you can kind of get lost in. Um, but I think you just need to be really transparent about what is AI. What I think is really amazing is I see a lot of these like wedding planners and stylists will dream up concepts for reception setups or ceremony setups using AI. The problem is though that what they do in reality is never going to live up to what, because with AI the possibilities are endless, but in real life there are limits. So you always have to come back to reality. So I think drawing the line there is really difficult, like finding
The balance
mm, like drawing inspiration from it and then being like, okay, cool, what can we actually do with what we have on Earth?
yeah, what is capable and what's not capable. I think it's very interesting now that you spoke about the planners and the florists out there using it in that regard. And I think also with when it comes to video and photos, I mean, if you're going to use any of the platforms out there to generate a wedding film that's unattainable, and you present it to your client and you say, listen, this is what I can do for you, and you're not able to replicate it, which chances are very high, that's probably going to backfire, and you're not going to be in a good space when it comes to everyone that saw you work on that day and with what you promised, you know.
Yes.
But I mean, I think also what's great about the platforms out there, I've seen a lot of Instagram and TikTok and everything has the small banner at the bottom or at the top where it says AI enhanced or whatever. So it seems like they're very good at the moment of identifying that it's AI and it's not AI. So that's great. When it comes to editing certain images, retouching it, how much is too much and how much is too little? Or do you even do it at the start at all?
I will, as I said before, I will remove distracting objects from the background. The problem is though, once you start, you kind of can't stop. It's difficult to draw the line. Like when I've removed a telephone line, then something else will bother me, and then something else will bother me until the picture is once again perfect. Um, so you just kind of have to draw the line for yourself. And when it comes to like retouching faces, I think, go the extra mile for your client. Once again, if you're charging a premium, remove the blemishes, make their eyes nice and bright and all of that. But when it comes to like altering body shapes and, you know, I don't know, I just, these like high end professional beauty, like when you see the befores and afters of these retouched images, you are like, it's not a real person anymore. So what are you selling? You're selling something that's not real. And, no wonder, I mean, this is an age old conversation, but no wonder like all of us are just so unhappy with the way that we look. Um, I kind of want to, draw a comparison to like getting Botox and filler. And every time you get something else altered to your face, you you have a new standard for when you feel beautiful. So if you don't have it, then you're not happy with, your face is just not going to cut it at some point. So it's a very slippery slope, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, I see a lot of clients out there opting against the perfect when it comes to being, everything looks absolutely gorgeous on the wedding day, and every moment is well orchestrated, and every emotion is kind of faked to a regard. And I see more videographers specifically leaning into their creative styles by using all digital cameras or getting the actual moment captured and allowing the couple the opportunity to kind of be very real and vulnerable towards it. Because I think in today's time where everything is really, I mean, there's a lot of content out there that's perfect, and the fallacy of, okay, listen, this is absolutely not realistic at all, and you have to kind of achieve that. I mean, people don't want that anymore. They
No.
want something that really speaks to them.
Yes.
And I think that's now the interesting part where we're going to come to is whether or not AI would be able to steal our jobs. You know, what would you say? Do you think there's going to be a wedding photographer robot one day that's going to shoot weddings? Is there, I mean, also going to be a editing platform that's going to be able to replicate your style to the T? What would you say?
I mean, I don't want to be the person that says, no, there's no way, because I think we've seen now that as it continues to grow, there's actually no limit. But once again, if you get if you get a robot to shoot your wedding, then that human element is just not going to be there. And so I think it would be difficult. We would maybe be the last of the everything else that you can do digitally. Yeah, sure. I mean, you're already able to edit with AI using programs like Imagine and so on. But a physical person holding a physical camera, going around, anticipating moments and being in tune with people's emotions, that's really, really tough for artificial intelligence to just, I don't know. I mean, but who am I to say? So, yeah, at the end of the day, I think we are really tired of just like perfection being thrown in our faces. So we really want the real. So I think we have the upper hand there.
Yeah, and I think there might be a phase where people lean into hiring AI robots shooting their
Because it's
weddings,
cool and it's new and
and
it's
it's
ooh.
trendy, and
Yes.
everyone is like, "Oh, that's so cool," and
But the
whatever.
pendulum always swings.
And I think the reality of it is that you're gonna, I don't know, but there's a study done out there that there's kind of a sixth sense for us to kind of realize whether something is real or whether it's fake. And I think people are gonna start to feel like, okay, cool, this thing AI isn't real. It's unfortunately fake, and they're not going to want to kind of engage with that. And I think the personal relationship that you have, the opportunity you have to kind of work with a couple, make sure that they are, present on the wedding day, and you can kind of see the small nitty-gritty things that are going to happen, or seeing it happening in real time, and you can kind of gauge, okay, cool, is this somewhere where I kind of step in and tell them, listen, okay, you have to relax, just stay calm, or is it where you just take a step back and you don't necessarily too involved with being too much in their faces? And I think AI, I'm not sure if it's ever going to get to that point where it would be able to do that. And I think with editing as well, I think, like you said earlier, it strives for perfection. And maybe one day you can prompt it to kind of look for the imperfections. But the reality is you'll probably um, be the one that's always going to have the better call at the end of the day, with what images really reflect what the couple would want to see. So yeah, and I think when it comes to seeing the possibilities that it will give us one day, I think utilizing it in your workflow is very important, and you're gonna have to really lean into it, spend time to understand it, and maybe one day you'll be at a stage where you can really utilize it well within your space that you find yourself in. AI, it's not going to go away. It's going to evolve, and it's going to become bigger and bigger. And I mean, do you feel you have to adapt it within your workflow every day, or do you feel like you don't have to kind of throw an eye to it?
I think it's made our lives so easy that it integrates seamlessly into your life, because we are creatures of convenience and habit, and or at least I am. So I don't like extra effort. So anything that makes your life easier is you're not really going to see it as a hurdle. So I mean, people were more upset about having to make reels than they are about using AI. I mean, AI is more a tool than anything else. I think it's up to everyone to decide like what is too far for them.
Yeah, well, there you have it. I think realizing that AI is not going to come for our jobs, but I think rather embracing it and utilizing it to save yourself time, that you only at the end of the day focus on enhancing your craft, making sure that you're becoming better, and leaning into using it in your day to day, and really bringing the best possible product to your client is very important. So, Shanae, thank you so much for taking the time and talking about this. I know probably within a year's time we would have a very different discussion.
Yes.
So yeah,
Thanks, Jock.
thank you.
Lekker.